You know, puff pastry, pâte feuilletée in French, we call that 1,000 leaves because it goes into tiny leaves. It's probably one of the most challenging dough to do for the chef. It's made of a bread dough, if you want water flour, which you spread, then you put butter onto it, you close it, you now have a layer of bread dough all around and a layer of fat in the center. That's 1, 2, 3, bread dough, fat bread dough. You roll it into a rectangle, fold it in third, so it's 3 times 3. Actually 8, because where it touches the dough, it's still dough. And you do that 6 times and you have about 1,500 layers of bread dough and butter, which when you put into the oven, the bread dough, the water in the bread dough develop into steam. It's kind of waterproof by the butter and it's kind of developing into the multi-layer effect you have in Napoleon, vol au vent, and so forth. A pound of flour and about 8 to 10 ounces of water, depending on the humidity. Okay, that would be my détrempe. So this is if you want your bread dough, of course without yeast. Actually, if you put yeast in it and you roll it like a puff paste, you have croissant. The croissant is a mixture of puff paste, if you want, and brioche. That is, it's a dough rolled like the puff paste, but there is yeast in it. Okay. So now we have to extend this. Usually you let it rest in between. There is about 3 or 4 different ways that I make puff paste. The classic way, the most classic of all, is really to do a square of the détrempe, then you have a square of the butter in the center and you bring the 4 corners together and you start rolling. Here I do it slightly different. It goes faster and I think the result is just as good. So I will extend that dough. Don't be afraid to use flour here at that moment, it's okay. Into a long rectangle like this. So I have a pound of flour here, and I have like 3/4 of a pound of butter. You can go up to a pound of butter. And I will arrange that butter on like, not quite to the end over there, about the equal amount all over. So what you do here, you bring back the third of the dough which is not covered with any butter on top, and then you fold that against on top. It means that to a certain extent you already have several layers. So that gave you time. Okay. Now we give it the first turn. I can see that my dough is still rollable, doesn't have much elasticity yet. So I kind of break it down a little bit like this. The first couple of dough are the most important. That equalize the butter all over the place. You can see through the dough those layers of butter here. Yeah. Now it is the time to do the turn. There is 2 types of turn. You have a single turn or a double turn. You want to make sure that you have no flour in the center of it, so you want to brush it out. If I fold it in 3, I go here, bring that here, that gives me 3 layers, 1, 2, 3. That's a single turn. I want to do a double turn. We do occasionally, again, to go faster. I go in the center here, make sure that it's sealed nicely. Again, in the center here, brush it with any dough. I want to make sure that it's together and fold it this way. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 rather than 3 dough. So it's actually 1.5 turns. The puff paste should have 6 turns. single turn, or if you want 4 turn and a half. That puff paste is ready. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 turn. You mark it so you remember it. Often at the last turn here, we roll it in sugar to do like pig's ear or to do all kind of different dessert that you do. But the technique is basically the same way, whether it's sugar or flour. So, see, you can see that it's nice together. Dough is beautiful. So let me take a piece of this. You know, it's hard to see the layer here, of course, because after 6 turns, as I say, there is like 1,500 layers, but they are there. Okay, they can be rolled, as I say, in many different shapes. One of them certainly is when you take this and you brush it with eggs and a mixture of paprika and Parmesan cheese, you brush it on top to do cheese straw. Then you fold it, you know, so that you can cut it. Let's say 1, 2, just to show you. So this, you will have it to do cheese straw. You can have your cheese straw that you cook in your cookie sheet, and at the end of it, when you étend them, remember now they're covered with one thing or another, you crush the end of it here and the end of it here so that they don't shrink. Another way is to do a sacristain. You take one this way, you put your hand here, your other hand here, and you do this. And that you have what we call a sacristain. And again, you cook them in a long way. You crush the end here, and you crush the end here so they don't move while they are cooking. Another shape, which is pretty common, would be to do larger sacristain like this. Again, roll in sugar. You fold it in half. You cut it in the center, and you bring that here to cook it this way. I'm sure you've seen those shapes. Sometimes you even give a double turn. There, you know, this way, and again this way, to turn it a couple more times. This. Now when you want to do pig's ear, you can take a piece like that again in sugar. Roll it into your sugar. Fold this here 1 time, at least 2 times. See where we are here. 1 time, 2 times. There is place for another time here, another one here. Fold them in half. Now you put that in the refrigerator, the log, and when it's nice and cold, of course, you cut it into those things that we call pig's ear. You put them to be cooked on the tray and you twist the end of it so they spread out, because remember that the puff paste is now in that direction, so it will spread out this way. If you want to do a tart, a square tart, which we often do, so let's say you want to do those type of cards, again you brush it with eggs, you fold it in half like this, and the type which is folded here, you cut it this way, the other one this way, then you reopen it, again brush it, you bring that part here, that would be your edge, and that other part here, which will be your other edge, to do a square puff paste tart, you know, some large one, some small one. Of course, there is the classic called fleuron, you know, that we serve as a garnish to many things, you know, certainly to fish, and that's the fleuron garnish, you know. These, of course, are rolled in sugar, all of those different shapes, and baked on either parchment paper or one of those silicone non-stick mat. And this is a few things that you can do with a puff pastry.